So I just wanted to create this video to answer all of my frequently asked questions about my hair. No matter where I go, my hair seems to be a topic of discussion. I'm sure that other Black people have this problem too. I have box braids, so this video is specifically answering questions about box braids. I've had box braids for on and off about 4 years now, and I've gotten asked these questions all the time since then. I can't really escape the nonstop questions about my hair, so I just thought I'd make a video so that if you want to know, you can just watch this instead of asking me or other Black people about their hair care. And if you are a Black person that's often getting asked these questions, that you could just send them this link and not have to deal with it. So I feel, oh, just heard a weird noise. So I feel it's a bit exhausting to always be answering the same questions everywhere you go about your hair. It just kind of creates this obvious difference between two people. Like, you've clearly never talked to someone that has box braids, and now you have all these questions, and it almost makes you like a Black token that you have to answer all of these questions about your hair, whereas it would be so weird if I just went up to a bunch of white women all the time and were like, oh my God, how long does it take to get your highlights? How much does that cost? How long does it last? It's just not something that white people really experience, I'm assuming at least. And it just kind of makes me at least feel uncomfortable when people have all of these questions lined up about my hair, because it's just hair and it's 2020. You can look up any of your questions instead of making someone uncomfortable with like an interview about their hair. So here's what you can look up. This video. Here are my most frequently asked questions about my box braids. So, number one, how long does it take? Everyone wants to know how long it takes. It really depends on the length. So I usually get this length, and some people get them to here. It's really dependent on the person, and it depends on how quick the person is that you go to. I've been going to my hairdresser, Diana, for the past 10 years, I think, or just under that. So we're a bit more like relaxed, like we'll show each other videos on our phones while like in the middle of it. So it's not like just nonstop, one after another, no conversation. It's a little bit more fun. So I would say it takes, for my hair, this takes usually about 6 hours, and that includes me going to the bathroom and like her answering a few texts and us talking and showing each other stuff. But usually it takes about 6 hours. On a good day or like a really fast day, if I come completely ready, it could take maybe 4.5 or 5 hours. But I'd say on average it takes about 6 hours to get my hair done. The next question that everyone always asks is, how long do they last? So that really is dependent on the person, because you can unbraid them whenever you feel like. I know some people, I've watched some videos on YouTube where some people unbraid their hair after 3 weeks, which to me is ridiculous, because I don't know, do what you want with your life and your money, but I try to keep mine for about 2 months to 3 months. I'd say on average I end up taking them out at about 2.5 months, but usually it's a minimum of 2 months that I keep my braids in if I'm gonna get them done. That just seems the most cost efficient to me and worth the 6 hours of sitting. So I usually keep mine in for 2.5 months on average. So a lot of people want to know how much it costs, which is kind of like an awkward question, because I wouldn't go up to people and be like, oh my God, you got your hair dyed? How much was it? It's just kind of an awkward question, so that's why I'm answering it here. So it's a hard answer, because I know some people that have gotten their hair done and it's cost $40 if they're like really good friends with the person, and it's short braids, which is a steal. But my hair on average, with the tip included, because that's included in the price, and with the hair included, I would say it usually comes to around somewhere between 140 and 160, probably like 140 or 150. The hair itself, which is another question that people ask me, is it your hair? No, this is not all my hair. My hair would be so long if this was my hair, I would be losing my shit. Maybe there's a few people out there that really have their own hair braided from head to toe, but most people just buy bundles, and those bundles, it's like a big thing of hair, and it usually costs between $3.99 and $8.99 depending on which store you're getting it from. The beauty supply market that I get it from, I think it costs $3.99 a bundle, and it usually takes my hair. The bundles are big. I think it usually takes somewhere between like 3 and 4 bundles to do all these braids. I usually buy 4 because you don't want to be short any bundles, and they're usually cheap, so why not? And it's synthetic hair. That's another question that people ask me, like, oh my gosh, is this all real hair? Even if it's not yours, is it real? It's synthetic, so it's not real. You can get real 100% human hair, it's just expensive. And I just don't. If I wanted to spend that much money to buy human hair, I'd probably just end up buying like a braided human hair wig because I feel like then I could wear it whenever I want. But that's a personal preference. Most people that I know that get their hair braided, it's synthetic. It's just common to have synthetic hair braided. But of course, it's my hair braided into the top, and then she braids it in with the synthetic hair so that eventually my hair stops, like somewhere around here or so, and then the rest is just the synthetic hair braided. One question is stop asking people when you see their hair with like long braids, did you do that yourself? No, I didn't do that myself. I know barely any people. I've met maybe like 2 people that have ever braided their hair entirely themselves. And if you do it yourself, like power to you. That's incredible. I think I know 2 people ever that have. But it's very hard to like make them all look good if you're trying to braid the back. Not to mention the angles you'd have to like reach. It would just be very difficult and take a long time. So no, I don't do them myself. So one question to stop asking people, and if you can take anything from this video, please stop asking Black people if you can touch their hair. Don't ask people if you can touch their hair. It is so belittling, and I know that usually it's just like out of curiosity, like, oh, like I've never seen that before, can I touch it? Like, first of all, you're not a child. This is not like some type of like, ooh, like textural experience. This is my hair. It's very rude to ask someone if you can touch their hair. It almost makes the recipient feel like you're an animal in a petting zoo. And it comes off as entitled, honestly, because it makes it seem like just because you're unfamiliar with something, you expect to touch it. Imagine if you went to a museum and had that mindset. That would not work out well for you. So really, if you can take anything out of this video, is to please stop asking Black people if you can touch their hair. So another question I commonly get is, does it hurt to get your hair braided? It doesn't hurt. Sometimes it can hurt a little bit right after you've gotten it braided because it's so tight. Sometimes if you have someone that works really tight, it can be a little tight, like on your roots, and you can tell when someone's just got it braided because you can see their hairline, like there's no growth. It's very like clean cut. Sometimes that can be an adjustment to sleep on. It doesn't ever really hurt for me personally. It's never hurt. I don't think it should hurt. Another question that is commonly asked is, can you feel this? Which is such a weird question because basically you'll be turned around and like some like person will just like have a braid of yours and they'll be like, can you feel this? And you'll be like, okay, rude. It goes back to the first question. I mean, my last answer or a few answers ago, don't touch my hair. Can you touch my hair? No. So grabbing like a braid of someone's and being like, can you feel this? It's just very awkward. Like, so the next question that is commonly asked is, how do you take them out? I mean, basic math, okay, not math, basic logic would just be the opposite of braiding. So to braid, you go this way. To unbraid, you go this way. I personally usually will chop them because my hair is not this long, as I mentioned. Most people's isn't. So usually my hair, it'll end somewhere around like here or so, around here. So I'll usually just cut it like within a safe distance. If I think my hair realistically is ending here, I'll go over here because I have accidentally cut off a tiny bit of a braid before. But I'll usually like cut my whole head so that it's like looking like this. So that it's looking like this or a little shorter. And then from there, I'll start unbraiding side by side just till I make my full 360 around my head. A lot of people ask, how long does it take to unbraid them? That really depends on the person. Some people have different styles of unbraiding, or if they have like natural hair, they'll just kind of like condition and slick it out. That has never worked for me. I think because I use synthetic hair or just because it doesn't. But for me, it usually takes it's hard to answer because usually I'm like watching TV and going to the bathroom between and like whatever. But I would say honestly, probably about anywhere from like 2 to 4 hours, with on average being about 3 hours probably. It's a lot of braids. Like, do you guys, can you see this? It's a lot of hair. So the next question that people usually ask is, let's see, are these dreads? Are those dreads? Or they'll say, I like your dreads, or something that indicates that they think my hair is dreaded. And these are braids. Like, I don't know if you can really see that well, but these are braids. If you see the definition in someone's hair of a braid mark, it's likely a braid. Dreads have a whole different appearance to them. They are different entirely. I've never had dreads, so whenever someone says they like my dreads, I'm just like, these are braids. So know the difference between box braids and dreads before you start, I don't know, making assumptions, I guess. A quick Google search would help. But dreads have this look, and braids have this look. They're very different. So a lot of people ask me, are they heavy? Is your hair heavy? It really depends. I mean, I personally am so used to the weight that I don't feel the heaviness, but whenever I take out my braids and just have my natural hair, it just feels lighter. So I guess you could say yes, but I personally don't think they're that light. I mean, I personally don't think they're that heavy. I think that it's just an adjustment. The length is an adjustment if you have it long. Sometimes if you put it all in a ponytail up on your head, that can feel a bit heavy, but just having them down really doesn't feel heavy to me. So another question people ask is, could I pull them off? As in, like, if they wore it, would that be cool? Um, yes, if you're black. If you're not, no. That's a controversial question. I mean, answer, I guess, because I know some straight up Italian looking people that have braided their hair, and I find it insulting personally. There's a lot of history that goes along with black hair, and that's why cultural appropriation is very sensitive or considered a big deal, because it is insulting, and if you, especially if you don't know the history behind it, it's very wrong. So I personally, if white people ask me if they should braid their hair, I say no. And if they ask why, I'll just send them like an article of all the reasons why there's so many BuzzFeed articles and different articles like why white people should not have black hairstyles. It silences black people, it silences their struggle, it silences the discrimination that we still receive within our hair, and it's just a no for me. So another question people ask me is, can you wash your hair? Yes? What kind of question is that? That question bothers me the most because it's insulting. It makes it seem like black people have poor hygiene or something, and I get some of it because like dreaded hair, like some people don't wash their dreads and that's like a thing, but first of all, these are braids. Second of all, yes, I wash my hair, and third of all, people don't have to. So I know that white people's hair gets very greasy, but our hair gets dry at the scalp, so it's not really like grease to wash out. And also, the grease in your hair can actually help your hair. So you shouldn't be washing your hair every day. I don't care who you are. You shouldn't be washing your hair every day. Every other day is like the most you should ever wash your hair. But most black people with braids, if they have them in for like, some people I said do it for a couple weeks, they might not wash their hair. Some people do it the whole 2.5 months and don't wash their hair. I wash my hair personally, and the frequency really depends on if I'm getting sweaty or not. Because if I'm just like not working out and living my everyday life, like as I said, my hair doesn't get greasy, so I'll just put oil in it and it'll kind of like take care of itself, and then I'll wash it like every like couple of weeks or so. But really, the frequency that someone washes their hair and if they even wash their hair is none of your business. Personally, that's what I think. Because does it really matter to you? Like, does it really change your life? Like, why do you have to ask these questions? It kind of just makes it feel like you have a stereotypical view that black people are dirty when people ask if you wash their hair. And I don't know. I personally don't like being asked that question. It's like, don't ask me about my hygiene. Like if you have an interest in my hair, that's one thing. If you're just like, wow, like how long have you had braids for? But if you're just like, do you wash your hair? It's like, all right, Becky, get out of here. How do you wash them? So, I mean, my roots are the most exposed. I'll put shampoo in my roots and work it down. and condition. It's basically the same as white hair, but you have braids. It's not that deep. It's just washing your hair. Let's see. How do you wash them? How do you maintain them? So maintaining your hair, I usually end up cutting the bottoms off, like, I don't know, every month or so. Like, I could use another cut again soon, but they get kind of like worn out. I don't know. They just like end up needing a little trim here and there. So I trim them sometimes, the bottoms of my braids. I put oil in my scalp. What happens if you unbraid it? And people seem so perplexed by this question. They're like, so what happens? First of all, the world doesn't explode if you unbraid your hair. Like everyone acts like what happens? It's like there's not going to be some random like magic trick. It's just unbraiding it. And as I mentioned before, it's your own hair braided into the other hair. So once you start unbraiding it, it's just going to look like unbraided hair. But once you get to the point where all the extensions are, it'll start to come out in like chunks basically because it's braided in, and then it'll be your natural hair. So I guess if you were to stop unbraiding it like somewhere before your natural hair, it would just look like unbraided hair. It's not a big deal. It's just unbraided hair. Um, so the last question I have on my list of frequently asked questions is, did you dye your hair that color? Because previously I've done fun colors. I just think it's fun to mix it up. And the answer is no. I did not dye my hair that color. Some people will dye their hair color and then also get braids like synthetic hair that's the same color. And in that case, I guess yes. But most people, if you see them with like a very different hair color, the roots tell the truth. So if the roots are darker, it's likely that it's just their hair and then it started to like radiate into fake hair. So I really like to mix up with different colors because I don't have to dye my hair and damage it. So if I do have a fun color, I'm never damaging my hair, whereas some people will dye their hair, which is like very damaging. Yeah, I think those are all of the questions I had on my list. If you guys have any other questions, you can comment below. It's really just kind of all of my frequently asked questions. I mean, I can't go like almost a day of my life if I'm leaving the house without hearing one of these questions from a stranger or a cashier that's taking my order. Like every day I get these questions. So I just thought it'd be best to address them in a video so that instead of having to waste my time explaining the answers to all these questions to these random people that probably don't matter to me, I can just hit them with a link. And I hope that other people can do that too so they can stop wasting their time answering these questions and so that you stop wasting your time asking Black people these questions. As I mentioned throughout the video, it can be offensive to have a nonstop interview about someone's hair the second you meet them. So maybe try to think of it as if you were that person. Thanks for watching. I hope that I answered all of your unanswered questions about my hair. I think that's all. One question I didn't answer is how long has this hair been in my head? Because people will ask me that. I've had this style that you see right now, this set, in since the beginning of November. So it's just about 2 months. I'm probably going to start unbraiding like in the next week or two. So about that 2.5 month mark is as I said. But thank you guys for watching. I hope that this answered all of your questions. And I hope that you stop asking Black people about their hair. Everyone can do their part by stop making people uncomfortable and asking them an interview about their hair. And as I said, the most important thing, as I said earlier, the most important thing to take from this video is to stop asking Black people to touch their hair or to just stop blatantly touching it. It's just hair. If you're that curious, don't be. I hope that we can all go on to this next decade of 2020 without asking Black people if they wash their hair.